All right, let's talk about something we've all wondered about, the classic rivalry, the early bird versus the night owl. We're going to go beyond just who's more productive and ask a much deeper question. Is one of them actually smarter?
You know the old saying, the early bird gets the worm? We've heard it a million times. But when it comes to raw brain power, is that old saying actually true? Well, let's find out.
And look, this isn't just about who gets more done before 9 a.m. This whole debate has always kind of had this undercurrent, this suggestion about who might be fundamentally more intelligent.
I mean, you probably know exactly which camp you fall into, right? You're either the morning lark, up and at 'em with the sunrise, or you're the night owl, doing your best thinking long after dark. These two profiles are really at the heart of the whole thing.
Okay, but here's where the plot thickens. For a while, some studies were actually pointing the other way, hinting that night owls might just have a cognitive edge, maybe an advantage in things like memory or how fast they process information. But a more recent study decided to take a much closer look, so let's see what they found.
So, before we can really get to the bottom of this, we've got to understand the core science behind it all.
It's this thing called your chronotype, and really, it's just your body's built-in natural preference for when you like to wake up and go to sleep. It's not just a choice, It's literally a part of your biology.
So, let's break it down real simple. Morning larks, they feel sharpest and perform their best early on in the day. Night owls? Yeah, they hit their stride way later, often in the evening. It's a fundamental difference in how their daily rhythms are wired.
All right, so how do you actually test an old proverb like this in the modern world? Let's get into the scientific showdown.
So, what we're going to be looking at is a really cool study from 2022 by a researcher named Gibbings and their team. They decided to put this whole idea to a serious modern test, using all the tools we have today.
And they had a super thorough plan. They didn't just ask people questions. First, they got 61 adults, from 20 all the way to 78. They had them fill out a questionnaire to see if they felt like a morning or evening person. Then, and this is key, they tracked their actual sleep for 10 straight days with wrist monitors. And finally, they put them through a battery of tests for 3 key brain functions: verbal skills, reasoning, and short-term memory.
Okay, the stage is set. The tests are done. So what did they find? Well, this is where things start to get really interesting.
So, the first clue they uncovered, honestly, it wasn't a huge shock. It pretty much confirmed what you'd expect. People who said they were morning larks really did go to bed earlier and had way more consistent, stable daily routines. No surprise there. And you can see it right here in the data. The more of a morning person someone was, the earlier they went to bed and woke up. But check out that last line, the one about daily stability. It's a really strong positive link. That means their body's rhythm was just rock solid, day in and day out. Now hang on to that idea of stability. It's going to be a big deal in a minute. But then, the second clue. And at first glance, it looked like a clear win for the owls. The raw data showed that having a later bedtime was actually linked to better verbal abilities. So it kind of looks like that old idea might be true, right?
So, case closed then? Night owls are just the slaughter birds? Well, not so fast. In science, that first look is almost never the whole story.
And here it is, the big twist. The scientists knew they had to dig deeper. They started to wonder, hey, is this really about the behavior of staying up late? Or is it about the underlying biology of being a morning or evening person? So they used some clever statistics to basically separate those two things and see what was really going on underneath. And what they found was a total paradox. Once they took the timing of bedtime out of the equation, the picture completely flipped. The biological trait of being a morning lark was actually tied to higher verbal ability. I mean, the complete opposite of what the first clue suggested. And that wasn't all they found. Turns out, short-term memory didn't have anything to do with being a lark or an owl. It was just linked to being younger, which makes sense. Reasoning ability? Nope, no connection to your chronotype at all. And these results held true for everyone, men and women, across that whole age range. Okay, so where does that leave us? Who actually gets the worm here? Let's break down the final verdict. The researchers themselves put it best. They said, the link between chronotype and cognitive abilities might be more nuanced than previously thought. And nuanced is definitely the right word here. It's not a simple answer. So here's the absolute bottom line. It's not just about when you sleep. The connection to being smarter is way more complicated than just your behavior. It's not about what you do, it's about how you're wired.
And this is where we circle all the way back to that first clue. Remember how we said to hang on to that idea of stability? Well, the morning larks had these really stable, synchronized body clocks. And the researchers think that might be the real secret sauce. It might be the stability and the consistency of that internal rhythm that's supporting better verbal skills, not just what time your head hits the pillow.
And that leaves us with this really cool, thought-provoking question to end on. We kind of busted the simple myth, right? But in its place, we've uncovered a much deeper mystery. Maybe the early bird gets the worm not because it's up early, but because its internal clock is just ticking along more smoothly. And it just makes you wonder, what other secrets is our body clock holding about how our brains really work?